Hello everyone, my name is Harold Campos. I'm a PM for Azure Integration Services, and today I will start our mission critical series, We Speak, where we emphasize on particular and commonly used technologies in enterprise mission critical environments. The topic for this session is called IBM Host Files. So what are host files and why are they important? Um, and there are multiple types of host files. Host files can exist in mainframes or mid-ranges and have their own characteristics. VSAM, or Virtual Storage Access Method, is a file storage that was introduced in the 70s by IBM, and it organizes and maintains data in a catalog structure. With an increasing demand on modernization um, and or accessing these mainframe or mid-ranges applications that use host files data such as VSAM files to Azure, it is becoming more common to access these files and integrate them into more modern or cloud-native solutions. Microsoft provides two ways to access and operate host files. The first one is by connecting directly to them, to the to where they are, and the second one is to operate them in a disconnected manner, in an offline mode. Um, some of the types of the host files are listed here in this slide, but we're going to get to the details of it later on. Direct access with host integration server. It is definitely not easy to access VSAM files and make them work outside of a mainframe because of the way how they were designed back in the day, right? So VSAM files can be stored only on direct access storage devices or DASD spaces, which require several cylinders to store the data, which is not cost effective and sometimes slow. As such, 30 years ago, we introduced technologies to abstract the complexity of working with these types of files by providing a managed provider, right? And then it became managed for direct access to host files. Um, the managed host file provider for direct access to host files operates in most ways as a normal data provider. So you have the typical objects that you would in any data access library. You can connect to a host file system, you can execute commands to it and retrieve data. Our provider requires SNA-LU 6.2 APPC for mainframes. And there is a session on how to configure an SNA gateway that I published some time back in this direction. I will make it available in the comments in this video. Mid-ranges can connect via TCP/IP or SNA, so they have available both alternatives. And for that, this is a feature that was introduced, as I said, between 25 to 30 years ago, and is part of the host integration server product that has been around since that time. Now, how does it work? To read the data, so you will operate running a select, for instance, right? The where clauses, they can be positional or keyed, where positional equals position, where keyed, you have specific columns. That is how you will read data. To write data, you can do inserts, updates, or deletes and the where clause follows the select where clause format that is above. And you can even do a bulk update of some tables using a host file adapter. So this is fairly well documented. You create an adapter, you do an update of a particular data set. For instance, you have a large XML file or JSON file. You convert the JSON or XML, you populate it into the data adapter object, and then this data adapter, what it does, it captures the data set with the original data, and then it updates it, and then it can fill it into the VSAM file, for instance, right? And some of those screens were added into this slide. For instance, you have this VSAM file that is called hcampus.his2020.hostfile.hfcus that has, I don't know, it has about 100 records, I think, right? And this follows a structure. This structure has to be created with Visual Studio, utilizing what we call the host integration definition file that basically allows you to define the structure of the VSAM file or any other host file. And then we have a reader, the iData reader, that by using with a host file connection, then you can just run the query, and then you can execute the reader, and then you can get the reader and look through it, as you can see on the right side, right? So now, what is important to note is that this solution requires host integration server. So you need host integration server on a server. You need an SNA gateway because again, the access that we provide to the VSAM files is based on SNA. And then you could operate with our managed provider. Okay, we do support data conversions for FCD and MLS, date, time stamp, decimal float, being a scar, and these libraries are available in different systems that we have available in our technologies for integration. But okay, so that is one alternative, right? So how do I set it up if I want to use it? For Azure and on-premises environments, you will need to install host integration server in a virtual machine. You will need to open the UDP ports 12,000 through 12,004 to enable the EHIS firewall rules as well. You will need to configure an SNA gateway with APPC in the host integration server VM. And for cloud environments, you need to enable ExpressRoute to your on-premises data center. If you were to connect, you have to provide a security connection between the cloud and your on-premises data center, for sure your mainframe. Create a network security group for the virtual machine, allowing traffic for those ports, and then you are all set from a networking perspective. Now, from a mainframe configuration perspective, you do need to set up DFM for ZOS, or you will need to set up enterprise extender in the mainframe, as you see here, the hint on the ports, the UDP ports, right? So then you can run commands using SNA over IP. There is a link where there is more information available, and then let me show you how does it look like. I'm going to go to my machine where I have the demo. So okay. All right. So as I was mentioning, you have with the host files libraries, you have the ability to do CRUD operations, right? In this class, I have delete data, get customer, get data, insert bulk customer strings, and then I have insert data as well. The method that I was just presenting was this one that is called the get data. Something important to notice is that in host integration server, we have something called data access tool where you can create a new data source and you can point to host files. Then you use LU 6.2 APPC, and then you continue the definition. You will need a local LU alias, a remote LU alias, a mode name. All of that has been set up already in another session. We have the SNA manager here up and running with allowing for connections, APC connections to our host. And once you have this defined the connectivity, so then you have a connection string that is created, and that connection string is the one that you use in your code, right? I mean, you can store it in COBOL somewhere else, right? Settings. For the simplicity, I just have this as a string, and then you execute the query, and then you get the data, right? So that is the host file library. Now you can definitely have I don't know, a cloud-based or a web-based application, right, where you can just use those libraries, right? In this case, this is a web API, I think, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things. So while I run this, I'll go to the terminal, and I'll show you how is it that the data look like. Okay, so let me use our client, right? Let me use our client here. Connect. I'll log on to the mainframe. So we select the DB2 instance. Now we go to ISPF. And in ISPF, I'm going to go to let me see if it's IBM products. I think it's IBM products. I think it's no, It's sorry, more. And then I'm going to go to the file manager for ZOS, where I'll have a chance to look at the data. Uh, so then in here, I have a number of options. So if you are a user of ISPS, you will recognize the file manager here, and then you can go and take a look to the data. I'll go to one. I can view the data, I can edit the data, and do some other. I have some other utilities available as well. So then in here, you will see that you can enter the data set, the path name, right, for the data set. In this case, it's called his2020.hostfile.hf castdb, right? So we'll see how the data is looking like. So the data here is, as I said, we have about 100 records. They are coming in XML format, and this data is coming through the adapter, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter to see the data here, right? And then you will see that the data it's available, and something that I didn't show here is in the host file solution is the structure of this data, right? So you have a customer, you have a name, you have a social security number, street, city, state, phone, access pin, and all of that is available here in the um, following that structure. You have this VSAM data that is available as a KSDS. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go real quick to show you something else here, given that we just did a simple select, right? But for the sake of time, I'll show you in the code what other operations we have available, right? So I mentioned the possibility to do an insert bulk customer records, right? So if we go to the definition of this method, then you will see that you have the ability to interact with a specific XML file. So in this particular case, what I did is I loaded an XML file. This is the XML file that I have customer records, right? That, as I said, it can be in any format, but in this case, for the data set to use it natively, I have XML, right? And all of this data, I uploaded it in bulk mode using this method to to update the data in the host, right? So that what I do is I create a command, right, with the instructions that are reading from this XML file, and then I execute an update to the data set, right? So I'm telling the adapter these are the instructions that will be executed against this this particular VSAM file, right? And then with the fill, I'm able to update the VSAM file. Okay, so as I said, working with VSAM files is very sensitive to the type of operation that we want to do, and also performance-wise. So that's why we try to recommend our customers to use the host files direct access option when they do need, to do a light query, to do basic operations against a VSAM file, because again, when they were designed to be, they were optimized to run in a local manner and not necessarily in a distributed manner. But anyway, so the option is available. And then we have the Logic Apps option of offline parsing of host files. We have in Azure Logic Apps, our product, our workflow product in Azure Integration Services, we have the concept of connectors and service providers. So what we have here is a service provider and connector that is a thin wrap around the host integration server feature flat file parser. So one of the things that you saw in this previous demo was that we didn't only connect to the VSAM file, but we parse it, right? We have to parse it to operate to it, right? So then we extracted those capabilities, the parsing capabilities, the ability to parse and generate the structure and populate a binary file. We started those capabilities into a connector that allows you to operate in a sort of a disconnected manner. So many customers, so this is an offline connector. As such, it requires the data to come from any trigger or action that produces binary data. For instance, an FTP or blob storage, and we'll see more in the next slide. But some customers prefer not to connect directly to host files, but to process them in the cloud. So in other words, like for instance, I have 100 megabytes of data, or I have a terabyte of data, and I partition it in pieces, right? And then I have a solution that allows me to just ingest the data, generate the data outside of the host. So then we provide the ability to for Logic Apps to work and to do operations in the VSAM file or in the host file, like I keep mentioning, right? Regardless where the file is coming from. For instance, you can have the option that I just presented, which is having a host integration server, either of these options, host integration server and the adapter, and then we generate the file, and then you move it to Logic Apps via a blob storage account, or Azure file storage, right? Even FTP if you want. You don't have to, but you can have an appliance that provides direct access to the mainframe and then generates the file, start the files. That's something basic with the file. So then you can dump it into SFTP or FTP, or you can just use the FTP, right? And then the VSAM file can generate. Well, you can have a job that takes the VSAM file and generates a physical sequential file, right? That can be downloaded and exported and everything, and then moved into the cloud. So then, let's say that you have that information available, that data available through one of these mechanisms, either blob storage, SFTP, FTP, or Azure file storage. So then you use our connector or service provider to parse the host file content and to generate host file content as well, right? If you want. So and then you can return it to the original location, right? So depending on the type of topology that you have, you can use host integration server. You can interact with the REST API, for instance, that we just presented, that we coded in host integration server using the libraries. Or you can just use FTP, right? FTP again, and then go to the host, and then it's available, and you have another job that processes the changes, and then you complete the life cycle. So what I'm going to show you is what is it? How is it different from a configuration perspective with the managed host file direct access alternative that we just presented? Actually, there is not a lot of difference, right? So you still have to define the structure of the file. Um, for that, you need a host integration designer XML file or HIDX file that you create with Visual Studio, the structure that I just showed you in the previous demo. You do need to set up in Visual Studio. There is an option in host integration server, host files. You have to mark this as include support for flat file processor and Logic Apps, and then you will operate the file the same manner as you will um, but from Logic Apps. Now, something important to mention is that this alternative, as you don't have to create data tables, you don't have to manipulate to create a data adapter or anything like that. This alternative is mostly for customers who want to expedite processes once in the cloud. So if you have the data available in the cloud, you've made ingestion into the FTP, SFTP, or storage account. So then this parser is way faster than what you will see using the managed host files provider, because it doesn't have to deal with all of the data conversion and all of the libraries, that operate behind the scenes to make the data to look in that CRUD manner, right? Or available for CRUD operations. So that's why if you have the data offline available, this is the way to go, right? Because you can do anything you want in the cloud. So now let me show you. Hopefully my session has not expired. Um, one quick example of how this works, right? There is okay. So let me show you this. Where is host files? Okay, demo host files. So in here you will see that you have a workflow. We have this workflow, and in this workflow we have we are reading data from when a blob is added or modified in Azure Storage. Then what we are going to do is we're going to drop a file into this container that is here, right? So let me do this one here. So we have two containers in this storage account called connected demo files. We have host files and generated files. So if I go to the workflow, you'll see that I will be reading from that blog, and then I will parse the data. So you will see the data parsed in Teams. I will send the parse data to Teams because this is another a very light file just for the sake of the demo. And then we will create a new host file, right? Again, so I'm hard coding the information so you can see that I'm leveraging the structure of the same, exactly the same structure that we had in the previous file, right? And the same schema name, and then we will store these newly created binary data somewhere else, right? So then, and I'll show you how this works. So let me go to the storage account, host files here, and then host files, and then let me dump the file, upload, and then let's add the data set here, right? Well, okay, mark this, there's nothing there. So then what's gonna happen is that, so we should be getting a notification soon here, right? Then I'm gonna show you what happened, right? So if you see, this is what we have. 1229, right? Parse file. This is the file that was parsed, right? Don Johnson, customers send something something, customers do something something. So then, if I go to the portal, right, again, and the containers, right, you will see that there were two containers, host files and generated files. So now I have a generated file that's called hcampus n12 dataset, right? So if I go to the workflow, you'll see that when I created this host file, right, I marked this file um, as with this information, okay? And then I marked that the name of the file was going to be hcampus n12 dataset, right? So this has only one record, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this generated file, which is, where is it? Sorry, this one. Just bear with me. This data set, I'm going to download it, right? So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to the same file. So I'm going to remember 12, right? And then I'm going to upload it to, so let me delete this so you can see nothing is generated. So we'll go to host files, I'll clean it up, right? So you can see uploads, and then this file here, right? I'm gonna drop it here, right? And upload, and then I'll go to Teams to see if there is another notification that's generated. I mean, theoretically, there has to be another notification coming soon, right? With only one record, and this is exactly what happened. So whatever I created in from the workflow, right, was parsed, successfully parsed. So it was parsed, it was read, and then there is another file that is generated here in. Let me go to the generated files. There's exactly the same file called hcampus n12 dataset. So again, so this is just a set of basic binary files operation, but they are root files. So they will operate in the same manner and the same performance as if you would, with larger files, because this is it was designed for fast processing, right? For processing in the cloud, right? So then this can scale out um, um, uh, extensively, right? And this is an option again once you have the information available in the cloud. And with that, I will be stopping this presentation. Thank you for your time. And again, so this is the first episode on a number of them for the Mission Critical series. Okay, we speak host files. Thank you everyone for your time. Okay, bye now.